Alright, welcome to the last part of today's lesson in Chapter 2, Lesson 7. We're going to end with the homework. The homework here is possible to do in class, but if not, this video will help you do it at home as well. The homework requires you to revise the argument you wrote in Section 3. Revising your arguments, in fact revising your work in general, is a big part of being a student in middle school. Sometimes when you're in class, you're just struggling to get down on paper what you need to get through the day and answer the questions. And then when you go back and look at it, you think to yourself, I really didn't write this very well. Or you'll look at it again and think to yourself, I could really have made the grammar better here to make myself seem smarter. Because you deserve to write as smart as you are. So let's go ahead and go through the steps to make that happen. You've done this kind of thing before, so you should be somewhat familiar with these steps, but reading them a second time will help you make sure you know what you're up against. Step 1. Read your argument and evaluate how well you did each of the following items on the left-hand side of the screen. Now, I didn't write an argument here because I want you to write your own, and I don't want you to be tempted to copy mine. But I'm going to go through each of the steps as though I had written an argument, so you can get an idea of what you're looking for. Let's go ahead and start with the first one. I stated my claim clearly. Remember that scientific arguments are made up of claims, which is written here, and evidence, which we'll notice is the second part of this question. The claim says what you think. So in this case, I began this lesson by thinking that Elisa had asthma, but I found out she didn't. So my claim would be, Elisa does not have asthma. It's very short, it's very to the point, and it's very clear also. If it's vague, it's hard to tell what your evidence supports, so make sure your claim is there and make sure it's stated clearly. For the second part, I include evidence to support the claim. Remember that a claim is nothing without evidence. You can say whatever you like, but if you can't prove it, it isn't worth anything. You need to prove it with your evidence. So the evidence in this case from my text would have been, I looked at my simulation and saw that people with asthma normally only get 12 oxygen molecules per breath. But Elisa, according to the results in Section 2, the student-to-student discussion, gets 25. Which means she definitely doesn't have asthma because she's getting more oxygen than those who do have asthma. So in that case, my evidence would have been clearly supporting my claim because I claim that Elisa does not have asthma. You need to make sure that your evidence is similarly clear when supporting your claim to the way I just said it now. For the last part, I made my reasoning clear by explaining how the evidence supports my claim. In the case of my evidence, I used the phrase, she definitely does not have asthma, because I could see from my evidence in the student-to-student discussion that she is getting 25 oxygen molecules per breath. That's my evidence, and my reasoning is the follow-up. The reasoning is, what I saw in my other tests from 2.4, that Elisa was getting, or that a person with asthma was getting less than Elisa. They were getting 12 oxygen molecules per breath, which means the people with asthma get less oxygen than what Elisa is getting. Therefore, Elisa cannot have asthma. So I took my evidence, that's the data table from the student-to-student discussion, and I reasoned it to explain why Elisa did not have asthma. That's the kind of thing you should be looking for in your own writing to make sure you're doing it correctly. Alright, once you've answered these three questions after reading your argument, you're ready to move on to step 2, which is revising your argument to make it more convincing. That shouldn't be too tough to do, as we've already gone through a couple steps, and you've had a chance to think about it more thoroughly. So you can go over your argument and think, this wasn't written the way I want to. Let me try it one more time and rewrite it to make it a little more convincing. It helps if you speak it out loud to yourself in a quiet voice. So if you can whisper it to yourself as you're reading it, you'll hear how it sounds out loud. So that way if it sounds a little off, you can go ahead and edit it to make it make sense. Once you're done with that, you're ready to click the hand in button, and you've completed Chapter 2, Lesson 7. You've done the warm-up, the student-to-student discussion, the writing, and the homework. And remember the fifth homework we're not doing for this unit, because it doesn't ask too much of you. With that said, you're all done. Great work.